Yo, what up, YouTube? It is your boy Dev. I am back for another vlog. Today, MLK Day, January 19th, 2026. And we are here trying to build a new music industry, a better music industry for tomorrow that is centered around the talent and building for the talent, turning them into profitable business centers that they can tour off of, they can live off of, and they can build an actual sustainable business around for the rest of their life. And I'm here with a good friend of mine, Pri Mayal. Pri and I have worked quite extensively over the last 5-6 years. I met him when I was at BeatStars, and then ended up working with him at Beat Club. And then over the last 2 years, we've been pushing on his music, pushing on his catalog, pushing on him as an artist and producer, getting it out there, and actually going and making those trips. We've made some trips to India together, and it helps because he actually knows the scene. And as he'll tell you, Pri, kind of give us an intro, and we'll get straight into it.
Yeah, no, man, I appreciate the intro. It's solid. No, it's been awesome, bro. Like, we've been, like you said, we connected about 6 years ago, and it was crazy on the transition, right? You caught me at a perfect transition time as well when I was coming into more of the music side because I was doing it for so long, but it was always like a side hobby. My background obviously goes into the full Brown stride, right? Like you go into that pathway where parents wanted me to become a doctor. I went to Davis, did undergrad in science, ended up realizing that if I became a doctor, I wouldn't do any good to the world. So I was like, let's move over. Ended up going to the startup world, right? So started up in music early on, 7 years, but just kept it on the side, kept from the education side, went into this corporate end and started in the startup world while I'm doing music on the side, right? So I'm making beats and doing this, but I'm actually at the same time, full time, working with these startup companies to help build their infrastructure, go into the operations world, work with their clients, and figure out, like you said, what's the business behind it, right? So it's kind of crazy. I kind of have these two worlds that I was balancing this entire time. And then when we connected, probably, I want to say about almost 10 years, I was probably 10 years already into the corporate game by that time. And working with companies, helping them raise funds, making sure that, they're running and staying profitable. Like everything always comes down to the bottom line, right? So we always talk about that. But yeah, we caught me at that time and man, it was really cool because it was eye-opening for me to understand what was happening in the producer world, right? I'll be honest with you, I didn't really know what was going on outside of like just, hey, I can make beats, like I can make beats, but I didn't really know like the landscape. How does it go, or how do you even go about like even pushing yourself out there? How do you talk to the right people, networking with the right people? I had no idea. So when we finally connected and I got a chance to sit down and learn from you, I was like, oh shoot, there's this huge lane, huge opportunity that one, people who look like me don't really get that opportunity. And two, I'll say is really just understanding that this music landscape is way bigger than we probably truly understand, right? And that was a big eye-opening experience. So from there, obviously, going in, working full time. Luckily, we got to partner up at Beat Club as well, working with the Timbaland team, and that was really cool. There's obviously those battles that you go through no matter what with any startup, but a huge learning experience. We were able to really kind of, take on the infrastructure side and build that and see how that comes into the music world. And, and it's actually kind of crazy on how those two worlds collide, which was great for me because on my background, I'm working on one side, like I said before, by this point, I'm about 13, 14 years in on the corporate side, at the same time, still making music. And it was cool because with you always push me on the side, be like, yo, bro, you gotta keep pushing on this music
Yeah.
end, right? I
Yeah.
was I was always, kind of worried about like, well, how do I go about it without selling my soul out and doing it so that it actually can for real.
One of the things that I've seen, like, you overcome is like having to be within the music business, like sit within the music business as an executive and also be a producer. And like I think I always told you from the beginning, like the key is being an executive producer, and with all the skills that you have as a beat maker, an artist, a whatever creative hyphenate you want to call it, you also have that business background, which you can take into every situation, right? So what I believe in, and it actually started working when I started working with Pri a lot more, very close, in terms of getting the music together and out there. It's like artists and the talent it's a product. First off, you yourself are a product, and the business that you create has to be a startup, right? And you have to build it in a way where you're the center, and then we build all the systems around that. Because too far and too often is the artist not necessarily considered the main unit to build around. The artist assets become property of different people in the value chain, and you don't necessarily have all the pieces all connected together, the data systems, the accounts, the accounting, so many things, right? So, it's really when I started working more closely along with Pri, where, he showed me an operational side that I wasn't necessarily used to working with in the music business, but that has kind of rubbed off on me in terms of how we set up and work with any artist. And so, the first thing, after Beat Club, I was like, bro, let's go to the Middle East and let's go to India. Let's just connect with our people there because we have people there. So we did that, Feb 2024. I'd been going back a good amount. People was like, no, I don't want to go back. I'm like, bro, you got to fucking go back. It's time. These are our people, you know what I mean? And lo and behold, we've been back since, Feb 2024. We've been back 8-9 times together, right? And we plan on making a trip every few months or so because we have work. We have real work that's going on in India. So, on that subject of India, kind of talk about your experience there and how we're pushing it going forward and building bridges out there with the sound, with the people, with the industry.
Yeah, man. India has been like this huge emerging market probably for the last, I would say, almost 20 years, but it hasn't really exploded until probably the last like year and a half, 2 years, I'll say, right? I got lucky enough to come in as a drummer first, so as a dole player. Started working with these like major artists that I never thought I'd ever have a chance to like share a stage with, but luckily ended up drumming for these guys. So I got to get into that India scene really early, right? Working with the people
What year was that exactly?
Oh man, we're talking. I start dating myself, but 2010, 2011, really getting onto these stages where in India, we forget that majority of the stages that you get onto, you're gonna have a audience of anywhere from about 5,000 minimum, going up to about excuse me, about 40 to 50,000, from there. And it was a crazy experience when you're I was like 20 years old, right? Like 20, 21 years old. This is being able to legally drink at this point, and I'm in front of 20,000, 30,000 fans for major artists, and being able to really take in, okay, well, what does it take to understand that scene? So I saw the scene in India growing pretty early on. Now you fast forward, and obviously, I had to break away for a little bit of time being in that corporate world, but I always stayed tapped in, right? And India being an emerging market, not just in music, but just across literally every sector across the landscape of business. If you look at it from that perspective, we've been seeing India growing like crazy. So, like you're saying, we've been going back there for the last 2 years, and it has been the explosion of growth. I don't think people understand it. When we talk about the music sector, the entertainment side, the opportunities that are coming around, these are massive, massive opportunities that honestly just weren't really there even when I first started on back in like that 2010, 2011 era that you come across now, where you have sync opportunities. You have these like fan bases. You have major artists wanting to go to India. You got people like Indian albums just about, right? And it's been really, really cool because not only have we been able to been accepted. So if you look at it, and I'll take one step back, is the India has been one place where I always have been gravitating towards, because obviously family roots, family ties, and all that. But it's one place that people give you an opportunity, and they want to open up and hear you. They want to hear your voice. They want to hear what you have to say. They want to hear your music, and they're open to that. And I think this is one time, especially today, where artists need to start taking advantage and start going there, shaking hands, and understanding the culture community. I think, a lot of times we have this sort of preconceived notion of what India is going to be like. And a lot of people are going to act like, how are they going to respond to the music? bro, they take in everything. They're smarter than your average listener. And when I say that, it's not to knock on anyone, but the idea is that they do the research where a lot of people aren't doing that. They want to understand who this artist is, what's the personality behind, what do they stand by, and then storytelling that you tell me about all the time as well, which you're 100% right, is that they actually want to hear the story.
Yeah.
It,
Hey, your life is a Bollywood movie. Everyone's life is a Bollywood movie. I feel like, no matter who you are, and there's ways to entertain. And us going there together has been helpful for me because like I don't speak Hindi or Punjabi. You speak both, and it gets me into the right places. I'd never have to worry about getting around. And like that's really kind of what the last few trips have been about. We did Rolling Loud India in November. Shout out Air Jordan and Rav and DJ Five Venoms and the Rolling Loud team for letting us bless the stage with an artist that you found started working with Zafar Sandhu. Tell us a little bit about the sound. I know the U.S. You are heavily influenced by the U.S. West Coast sound, R&B, pop, rap music, obviously, but you're obviously also influenced by the Punjabi sound and the Bollywood sound and sounds that have come from India because of playing the dole and doing Bhangra and all that stuff. Tell us how that's all kind of now all come full circle and you're trying to build a sound in a way that connects both worlds a little bit more.
I started off really focused on like the Desi Indian sound first. That a lot of my initial music was heavy on that end. And then slowly, it's just funny because like no matter what, your roots are your roots. And at the end of the day, let's be honest, we're from California, and Californians rep California really hard, right? Like we take that.
Have to.
Yeah. It was one of those things where no matter how much I try to pull away from the California sound, or I would say even like the North American sound, because I don't want to box it in just there, but I always came back to it, right? So again, starting on the career side, it really started with the Desi end, but then I slowly started realizing I was like, dude, the influence of what you already do and what's so natural, you can't get away from that, right? So I started just incorporating that into the Punjabi music. So let's say from like the 2012 2013 era of production, and when you go up to about 2016 to 2017, turn into more of a fusion base of how can I take this more authentic sound from where we come from and help it translate across the board with the authentic side of Indian Punjabi music, right? Taking these, putting them onto these, West Coast style, going into the heavy just trap, Atlanta trap, Detroit trap, even all the way going to the boom bap side on the New York end. I mean, I wanted to bring him into everything. So 2018 probably gave me one of my biggest hits that I've got a chance to produce with that Nahalia track, right? So when I dropped that, it was crazy because it was a brand new sound at that time. So I think people were just taken back, because that was a heavy West Coast style beat, right? And I was like, oh man, this thing can work. Yeah. So put that out, and it was wild, man. I think my followers on Instagram, because I think at that time that was like the biggest count rate, right? We weren't thinking about Spotify listening
engagement.
Yeah, we were just like, oh shit. And then it jumped from like 9,000 to like 32,000 followers in maybe 3 days. Wow. And it was one song. There is probably, I didn't have much money to put into marketing because I didn't really know where to put money into. We at this time, you and I were working so deeply into like understanding data and metrics and stuff where I felt like I would have thrived in, but I had
lots of people that might like it, which is was important.
And but man, that just kind of kept evolving. I understood it's like I have an opportunity here to bring a different sound that a lot of these guys, not that they can't do it, it's just not going to be as authentic to them. Just as much as if I try to do Indian music all the time, it's not going to be as authentic, just because again, I haven't grown up there, right? So it's hard for me to take that, and that's one of the things we always talk about: understanding the culture, paying respect to it, but at the same time respecting where you come from and also paying homage to theirs. So being able to fuse that. Fast forward to, like you were talking about, went to Rolling Loud, went to, got to meet Zafar. And really, it was all just because I naturally just took on what was my natural sound instead of me having to like push that back and say, I gotta, fall into this pocket. That was, I was like, look, let me embrace this. What am I doing? Why am I fighting this thing? Right. So once I embraced it, I came back to it. I was like, okay, this is cool. And it's wild. You talk about Zuffer. We just met at a song camp, just this past September, and you talk about how things kind of change really quickly. And how you see that this kind of even stems from the India conversation to today's production style. Well, embracing India's growth, understanding your own production, embracing that got me to this camp. And shout out to Charlie to be able to think about me as being a part of it as a producer. Got a chance to work with some of the best artists of today's India entertainment scene. Started working with them, found Zuffer, who was a diamond in the rough because this guy has been writing for major artists, but he never was an artist. Got to hear him sing, and I was like, man, this guy's awesome. Never someone like that. We record a song on a beat that I made probably a year and a half ago, and that song ends up getting us a deal with Mass Appeal and Sony. And then from there, we were on Rolling Loud right after, went to Soul DXB, got to see Zuffer perform on stage with the song that we there. So it's crazy. Embracing what you do, understanding the culture, and then just really going all in on one sound that you can crush. That's going to be authentic to you, that you could continuously keep doing. That was like the big pull, and that kind of gave me my direction, man.
But Pri, last thing before you go, what is one piece of advice that you have to give to artists that are looking to either work with you or just make it in the business?
Uh, Dude, you know what? Like, we can start with just making the business. I'd say just keep going. This is a war of, like, we always talk about the war of attrition, right? Like, you have to be able to withstand the punches and the battles that you're going to come across in this industry. It's going to be tough, but if you can withstand your competition and just be standing at the end of it, that is probably the biggest win because that'll open up a lot more doors. So just keep going and just, take in the punches as they come, right? Because it's going to be a long journey, but it's worthwhile at the end. And I want to say at the end, when you finally feel like you're getting that recognition, right? To work together, man, honestly, I'm open to everyone. Is one of the biggest things I would say is collab as much as possible. It's something that you taught me. I know we talked about this so much in the past, but especially going to India, it opened up my eyes of how much talent there is. So, for me, it's always been like, hey, if I get a chance to work with anyone, I try to, just because you don't know what can pop off these days. The idea of celebrity's gone. We don't have the top artists or anything like that. It's about just collaborating and working. So, yeah, two big pieces there. Collaborate and just keep going.
Well, there you have it. Thank you, Pri Mayal, for joining me on my daily vlog. You'll see him again soon. He's very public in my, my Instagram stories, all that stuff. So just follow him at Pri Mayal, and you'll be hearing some music and seeing some more content with him very soon. Monday, Jan 19th, putting this out. See you tomorrow. Peace.